Welcome to the Kopite Podcast with your hosts Mick Moran and Jay Pearson.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Kopite Podcast. It is the expert view, and right now we are joined by Mick Moran as usual, and our expert today is Mr. Paul Gorst from the Liverpool Echo, the senior LFC correspondent. Paul, thank you very much, mate, and welcome to the Kopite Podcast.
No worries. Thanks for having me on.
Anytime, buddy. So hopefully we'll be the first of many, pal. Fingers crossed, eh? Paul, first of all, obviously on behalf of me and Mick, just want to say, congratulations on the new role. I know it's not so new anymore, but it was the first time we've spoken to you regarding it.
Yeah.
Been in the role since August, and then we've gone on to win the league. So why did you take the job earlier?
No, it's funny because the job that I've got now, being the Liverpool correspondent for the Liverpool Echo, it's kind of one that I always wanted, and it was dawning on me slowly but surely across the season that I'm going to be the first one in 30 years to write that match verdict to win the league. And I was thinking, I'm going to have to try and get a few ideas together early because the walk in the league, so I've got plenty of time to have a think. So what am I going to say? You need to make it good and whatever. And then, it stopped in its tracks. So it's been a bit of a strange season. I mean, I picked the right season for it, haven't I? Let's be honest. Seen them lose twice, I think. Obviously Watford, and I was in Naples for that one against Napoli. It's just been an absolutely incredible season. 29 games, 27 wins. Fantastic. I mean, you can talk all day about how good this team is, and for me, it's the best Liverpool team that I've ever known, and I'm 33 this year, so we're privileged to be able to watch them at the moment. But when we're going to be able to see them again, as of yet, we don't know, do we?
No, that's it, mate. I mean, it's one of those. I mean, you're right. We're all in. Me and Mick are 35 and 30. Make you 32, 33?
Fuck off. 30.
We always wind him up about that. You're right, mate. And I think me and Mick agree with you, mate. It is the best Liverpool side we've certainly seen in our lifetime. And mate, I can't wait to read this article from you, because the longer it goes on, the more things can pop into your head and add that into it. So, but who gives us a stuff, mate? We've waited 30 years, we can wait a little bit longer, can't we? So,
yeah.
And we're all going to milk it till the cows come home. We're going to enjoy it as much as we can. But obviously, the good news last night, mate, is obviously the breaking news that happened sort of relatively afternoonish, early evening, is that the players are all back in training as of today. So, what's the latest on that? Have you heard much about it today?
To be honest, I've actually been off desk this week. I was off yesterday, and today I've been on a slightly different thing that we're trying at the moment. So I haven't been up across it for the last couple of days. But I know that I was told quite a while ago now, actually, it might have been 3 or 4 weeks ago, that Liverpool were hoping to get back into training in mid-May, and that is as it transpires. So Liverpool were back in there yesterday. We've seen all the players' cars pulling them into Melwood. And they've been going through some light sessions. I know it reopened a couple of weeks back for players to kind of have a pitch each. There was 3 players designated a pitch each, and they were allowed to train for an hour. The inside facilities weren't open to them, so it's basically a case of showing up in your kit, throwing your boots off, put your trainers back on, and drive home and take a shower and whatever there. So Melwood's been open now a couple of weeks, but slowly but surely they are kind of widening it now, and it's great that the entire team are going to be back there and resuming training, because although it's only been 2 months, I don't know how effective it is for these players to be training from home. I know they've been having the Zoom meetings with the yoga sessions and whatever else, but essentially these players, these elite level athletes, have been left to get on with things in homemade gyms and gardens, which can't be great for Premier League footballers. So hopefully now with Melwood reopen, they can crack on and build up that fitness towards the eventual return.
Yeah, spot on, mate. I think it does make you laugh, doesn't it, while they've got to get changed at home, go and play. It's like when we go to the soccer dome and play five-a-side, isn't it? We've got to get changed and we shower when we get back home, and a bit of normality for them in that sense. But I think everyone's it was the news that everyone was waiting for, wasn't we? Because we've all been dying for the season to finish, us more than most, because of obviously, touch wood, what's going to happen. The next thing that they were talking about was the June 12th date. Now, I know this has been spoken about loads by not so much the top club, it's more the lesser sides that having representatives speak out about it. I think we all know the reason why, whether I'm accusing them or not. But I just think it's dead funny how it's a lot of the lower teams towards the bottom that are saying it, that they want to push the date back. Do you feel that the June the 12th date is a good date to start, or do you think that's going to go further back?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I think the majority of players are desperate to get back playing. I know Jurgen Klopp said last week, everyone at Liverpool is absolutely, chomping at the bit to get back and playing. But when you've got players like Troy Deeney who are very vocal about opposing the restart date, then you have to kind of weigh that up and think, what's the ratio here? Is it 8 players to 2 we'd rather get back and training, or is it more a 50-50 type of thing? I think it just depends on the players. I mean, I think the players need to be at the forefront of the thinking of this and see what the majority do think. I think if certain players don't want to play, then that's their prerogative. They've obviously got families and so on, and there might be a situation where they sit out the remainder of the season. I'm not too sure, but I think from what you hear and what you read, I think the majority of players are desperate to get back training. They're going to be tested twice a week, so they're going to be safer than any other sector in the country. So, I think it is just a case of finding out what works best for the majority, which does seem to be back playing as soon as possible. I think June the 12th seems to work because the government have given the green light for events after the 1st of June to resume without fans. So that would theoretically free the Premier League up to crack on and try and get these remaining 92 games played.
Yeah, and is that in terms of with UEFA as well? Because I think UEFA's deadline is the 25th of May, if I'm not mistaken, where they've got to put a proposal in. Has that been submitted already, which is why the players are back at training?
I don't know, to be honest, but I know UEFA kind of come out, didn't they, and suggested that they wanted the Champions League final to be the end of August. So I think it'd be a case of concluding all the domestic leagues as soon as possible and then continuing on with the Champions League, which kind of almost becomes a little bit of a pre-season thing, which is weird to think. So that might, you look at the likes of Manchester City who are still in that could almost become the pre-season programme at a very high level, as opposed to just the warm-up fixtures that you normally associate with July and August. So it's the whole calendar's going to be thrown into chaos, isn't it? But I think Richard Masters, the Premier League CEO, suggested yesterday that while the calendar's taking a little bit of a hit, they're not currently at a point where it's beyond repair. They can work around it and come to an arrangement where next season isn't impacted too much and they can finish this season off maybe not too far ahead in the future.
Yeah, that's it, because they've had a long break anyway, haven't they? And then we start back again, and we might finish the season and there'll be a 2-week break, and it's going to line up eventually. And when you think about the Qatar World Cup, the season was always going to be skew with eventually anyway, wasn't there? So this could be a bit of a blessing in disguise in terms of getting the players prepared for World Cups, and even afterwards when they come back from that as well. But I mean, when we're looking at the squad itself, like you said, we've seen the Zoom meetings and all that sort of stuff. It's been good fun watching the players, but obviously we know what's at stake. We know we're going to be playing Everton the first game that comes back. We know we're only 2 wins away. How do you feel the players are mentally prepared for that? Because we were on the verge of completing it, and now there's a big break. Do you think that's going to affect the players in any way?
I don't think so, no. I mean, I think from what I understand is basically Klopp said to them, there's nothing you can do about this situation. The only thing that they can focus on is staying fit and making sure that they're ready to go when the kick-off does resume. So I don't think it'll have too much of an impact, to be honest. I remember Klopp saying a couple of weeks ago on Sky that he's not interested in problems, he's only thinking about solutions. And I suppose once Liverpool players have got their head around the fact that there's nothing that they can do to kind of resolve the situation, all they can do is stay fit, stay ready, and look to hit the ground running as early as possible when the restart does happen. And I think all the teams are in the same boat. I've seen quite a lot of talk about players are going to need 3 or 4 weeks to get back to fitness, but all the teams are in the same boat. So maybe if there's a little bit of a little bit of a subdued feel to games. I think that'll only be natural. We've seen it with the Bundesliga games last week, didn't we? I think it might even be a case of, with no fans there to kind of influence proceedings, the teams with the most quality and the best fitness levels come out on top, and you would fancy Liverpool to kind of come out on top in most games if that was the case.
Absolutely, mate. And I was just about to bring it up as well. What did you make of the return to action in the Bundesliga? Think it went smoothly?
Yeah, as smoothly as possible. It was a bit of a surreal thing to watch, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
I watched the Dortmund game, and it was a derby. So it was a massive derby in German football, Dortmund against Schalke, and it was played. Felt like a friendly, but if you watch it, it wasn't. I mean, the quality was still there. Dortmund were far and away the better side because they got the better players, and they made their quality tell on the day. So it'll take some getting used to, no doubt about it. It's weird not hearing any fans, and it's weird hearing polite applause for goals, and you can hear the instructions from the players and so on. But this is the new normal. I think it's very much the preferred method than just leaving football full stop until it is safe to continue with a mass gathering.
Can you imagine Carragher now with we'd be able to hear everything he's bloody saying, wouldn't we? I mean, you can hear him anyway.
You can hear him anyway,
yeah. But imagine, absolutely bloody hilarious if that was the case. But like you said, mate, it's going to be a completely new thing for us. And I was saying to Mick the other day, we were watching the Dortmund game and going, yeah, you can hear everything, but imagine when it's in English and you hear everything that goes on. It's going to be nice for a lot of people who don't get to go to the match, because we hear it all the time when we're in the ground anyway. But for people that don't go the match and not able to hear it and all that sort of stuff, it's going to be a different perspective for them. But I think we're going to learn a lot if none of the players have sort of, hopefully everyone's okay and no one's tested positive or anything like that. And because if that happened, it would put the brakes on everything, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean, you're back to square one, aren't you? And you don't know where you go from there. So hopefully that isn't the case. But as you say, I mean, Premier League are paying for private testing. I think the players are going to be tested twice a week. So in terms of safety, I mean, I don't think that there's much more the authorities can do without pausing it completely for 6 months, because we know that the £760 million worth of TV money needs to be fulfilled, because some clubs patently can't cope with having to pay that back. I mean, I've seen a report suggesting that Burnley, who have been in the Premier League now for 5 years, they wouldn't be able to continue operating beyond August if they didn't get the season up and running. And that's a team who are, fairly regulars now. So I think this season just needs to be completed, and it's a shame that Liverpool are going to be champions in such a surreal way. But this is the world we live in. So why not win the title? You'd rather win the title than not, wouldn't you?
Well, that was it. How many times have we said that if you got offered this 10 years ago, you'd have took it, wouldn't you, Mick?
Yeah, I think it's because we got to the point where when we were doing podcasts every week, we were just battling teams, and we were like, well, what game are we going to win the league? And obviously this has all came about, so we were thinking, then we were worrying, is football going to get started again? But I think I'd prefer just get the games going again. Obviously, there's not going to be any fans. I don't care how fit anyone's going to be, because even if everyone was fully fit, without the fans, it's still going to feel like a different environment anyway. There's no atmosphere there, so the players can't be G'd up in the same way they would. I don't know. Like you said, it's going to be difficult, but just getting over the line and getting that first title in these circumstances is going to be very weird. But we just need to get over the line. That's all we need, desperately.
Yeah, I mean, there's been so many circumstances and suggestions of how the trophy presentation goes. For example, the Premier League have said obviously yesterday, Paul, that they will support a trophy presentation, but I don't know if the club would go for it, mate. If they do it in the middle of the pitch, just with them, I just don't. For me, I think they'd probably just keep the trophy at Anfield and then celebrate and lift the trophy when fans are allowed back in. But again, could be 6 months, could be a year. Nobody knows, do they? And that's the horrendous thing. Do we wait that long?
Exactly. I mean, I think Liverpool will probably do both. To be honest, I think they'll have the trophy presentation on the pitch, and then when it is safe to do so, they're going to have
do it again.
The mother of all parades. I mean, I know that Liverpool had actually. I mean, it was inevitable that they would have had to have had discussions about plans for winning the league, because it's just, it's sensible, isn't it? Such a big event needs to be kind of talked about anyway. So discussions had taken place about where and when that was going to be held, and I think it would have been the Monday after the season had finished. So actually yesterday, it would have been yesterday, which is a crying shame that that wasn't the case. But I think at some point they will kind of organise something, but as and when that'll take place, it's anyone's guess at the moment, isn't it, sadly?
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, there's been so many people that, you know, live outside the city that have booked hotels and all that sort of stuff. But, you know, when that day happens, that it's going to be twice as big as what we ever thought. So if all the haters who thought it was going to be big at one point, it's going to be twice as big now, especially with all this null and void rubbish is now off the table as well. So it's absolutely boss. We mentioned before about things being unfinished and stuff, and we just want to bring up one name to you at the minute, of the name of Timo Werner. Now, I know this is not going to go off the table for a lot of Liverpool fans, and we're all dying to get this one over the line. And before the coronavirus hit, there was the April deadline of having to make a bid, or, you know, make sure that there was something in his contract. I'm sure you'll be able to tell me anyway. But are Liverpool at the minute playing a bit of a game with Timo Werner and his club in terms of the money situation because of what's going on with the coronavirus? Because I was under the impression that this had to be over the line by now, but obviously things change. So do you know what the latest is? Because we know he wants to come.
Yeah, well, he's made no secrets of that, has he? He's said a few times now how much he thinks Liverpool would be a good fit for him and how much he thinks of Klopp. I think he called him the best coach in the world back in February. It's become a little bit of an open secret, hasn't it, about Liverpool's interest? Yeah. I mean, there's so much talk of him, and he's been on the rumour mill for over 2 years now. I know Liverpool initially, this was going back a couple of years ago, didn't want to make a move for him because they had such high hopes for Ian Brewster when he was coming back from that long-term injury. Hasn't quite worked out for him this season because of, I think he would have played a lot more actually if Liverpool wouldn't have been involved in games so late on. I mean, you think of the amount of late goals that Liverpool have scored and the games that haven't quite been sewn up, so he hasn't been able to get on the pitch as much as he or Klopp would have liked, and he's moved on to Swansea. But I do think Liverpool need someone, some top quality coming off the bench to fill in for one of the front three if any of them drop out. So it does seem that Werner is the one. In terms of bringing them to the club, I think Liverpool probably would have made a move this summer, but the coronavirus impact has had such a probably catastrophic impact on so many clubs' finances across world football, and we don't really know how that's going to manifest over the next couple of months, do we? With so many clubs not earning essentially for the best part of 2 months. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. The interest is still there, definitely. It's just a case of, can Liverpool kind of thrash out a deal where it works for both Leipzig and Liverpool. I mean, he's a top quality player, so they're not going to be letting him go on the cheap. But Liverpool do have a good relationship with that club. I mean, you look at when they struck the deal with Leipzig for Naby Keita in August 2017, for him to come a year later. Maybe something along those lines can be thrashed out again. I'm not too sure, but the interest is there. It's just a case of, do Liverpool's finances work, and can they come to an agreement with Leipzig?
Yeah, spot on, mate. I mean, like you said, the coronavirus has changed everything now, hasn't it? I think for the next couple of years, we might not see a couple of £100 million players going out the door these days. And I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. At the end of the day, sometimes, we all thought £15 million for Alan Shearer was way too much money back in the day, and you can only buy someone's left foot for that these days. So yeah, like you said, mate, I think it will happen. It's just a question of when. I mean, I like what you said about the way he's going to come to club, and he knows what the role that, because Klopp's obviously told his role already, and I think that's really wise of Klopp to say, this is arguably the best front three in the world. You're not going to step straight in, and fair play to the player as well to say, do you know what? Yeah, I can sit on the bench, but watch me come on and I can smash it. Yeah,
definitely. I think if he was to come, I don't think he'd necessarily come in expecting to start, but the gauntlet would be laid down to him, wouldn't it? To say, if you get a chance, go and take it, because I think we all accept, as much as Divock Origi is a hero for the goals that he contributed last season. I think him and Xherdan Shaqiri with his injury problems are a significant step below what is one of the best front threes in the world. So someone like Timo Werner is a significant step up in quality. He wouldn't be too concerned if he was starting as the number 9 ahead of Roberto Firmino. So I think he's someone who seems to tick plenty of boxes for Liverpool. It's now just a case of what impact the coronavirus has had on the transfer budgets, and can they come to an agreeable solution with RB Leipzig. I think we hear quite a lot of the likes of Jadon Sancho and Kylian Mbappe, and I think they are pipe dreams for Liverpool fans, but certainly with Timo Werner, he's definitely a lot more realistic.
Yeah, and go on, sorry, Mick. Go on, sorry.
I was going to ask, do you think he's going to come in as well, when eventually he does come in, is it going to be a replacement for, like you said, a Origi or a Shaqiri, or is it, in terms of, is it going to be as a replacement for a Salah or a Mane? Because obviously they're, and Firmino, they're all like 20, 27, 28, 29. Is he going to come in as a kind of a phasing over period to someone who's a bit young? Because I think Werner's just turned 24. So is it going to be a case of that, or is it a case of just needing more Klopp wants more quality on the bench coming off to affect games?
Yeah, I think it's just a case of building the squad, to be honest, and making that stronger. I don't foresee him coming in and that means that Mo Salah's going to be on the bench or Sadio Mane. I think he will initially be coming in with the challenge of breaking into that front three, and could even be a situation where Klopp tweaks the formation and withdraws Firmino a little bit, plays Werner further forward and takes out the midfielder. I mean, he gives them plenty of options, doesn't he? Because you can play anywhere across that front three. So he's a versatile player, and I think you've got to be to play for Klopp. I mean, if you look at right across the Liverpool squad, apart from maybe the centre-backs, they can all play in a number of positions. So you have to be able to adapt to play for the Jurgen Klopp team, and no doubt Timo Werner is. I mean, you do have to kind of think a couple of years ahead, and Klopp signing that new contract in December means that he will be thinking 3 or 4 years down the line, particularly to probably the state of the club when he leaves. That's always seen as a mark of a great manager, the state of the club when they leave. So maybe he's thinking along those lines, but I don't think the front three at the moment is going to be broken up anytime soon. I think they've got a good couple of years together at the moment.
Yeah, definitely, mate. I think we need to, they say in terms of breaking up, there was another name that popped up last week, and it made my jaw drop because I didn't think that would ever be the case for us. For Koulibaly, he's been sort of touted about joining the club. Now, for me, I love Gomez, and I think that was the partnership for the next 10 years, up to 10 years with Van Dijk, and I don't think Klopp would sign Koulibaly to just be a Lovren replacement, because I think we all know that Dejan's probably going to leave at the end of the season anyway. I mean, I can't see that happening, Paul. What do you make of it? As a Liverpool fan, do you think that's the right thing to go?
I can't see it happening, to be honest. I think Napoli would probably talk 60, 70, 80 million for someone like him. I mean, Liverpool fans have had a good look at him, haven't they, the last couple of seasons? Yeah. Four times he's played them. Not sure if he played in the friendlies as well. He's a top centre-back, one of the best in Europe for me. And as much as he pretty much make Liverpool unbeatable at the back with him and Van Dijk alongside each other, it's not a transfer I foresee happening. I think Lovren's future is up in the air. I think if Liverpool get a decent offer for him this summer, I think he'll probably go. I think he'll be 31 in July. But I don't see Koulibaly coming in as a replacement, or someone to kind of bolster that back four.
Yeah, go on, Mick. Sorry.
Yeah, I think Koulibaly's he's 29 next month as well, so it's not like an FSG type sign, is it? He's got maybe 2-3 years left at the top level, and like you said, Napoli going to charge over the odds for him, and it'll stunt Joe Gomez's progression anyway. If Lovren does go, like you said, if a sizable bid comes in for Lovren and he wants to jump ship, do you see anyone coming in apart from Koulibaly?
I think that's a difficult one, because they brought Sepp van den Berg to the club, didn't they, last summer? And I think there were high hopes for him at the time. I know I remember being told that he was kind of viewed similar to Joe Gomez, coming in as a young player, but for the first team straight away. And I don't think he's quite developed that way. I mean, I've seen him quite a lot for the under-23s and the youth league games, and he's never really struck me as someone who's ready. So I think that they might have to look at another centre-back if Lovren does move on. But I know Klopp is a massive fan of Lovren, despite what some people might think. Klopp loves Lovren, so I think he might think if the player doesn't agitate to move and no bid comes in, then it's better the devil you know, and I think he might stay. But I think it all depends on the player. He hasn't played as much as he'd like, I'm sure. And there was interest last summer from Roma, and Liverpool got a little bit frustrated with how they were handling the situation and kind of pulled the plug on the deal. So if that kind of manifests again, then Klopp and Lovren would definitely look at it.
Definitely, mate. I think you've just hit the nail on the head there. I mean, I've said stuff about Lovren in the past when he's made these mistakes at home to West Ham. I never forget that mistake. But I wrote a piece last year, and it was basically how Dejan Lovren is. At that point, he was fourth choice centre back. Let's look at it that way. But as a fourth choice centre back, he would be first choice in a lot of other teams. There's worse, people to have at fourth choice centre back, and he's still a solid player. And on his day, he can be one of the best defenders in the league, or if not in Europe. So, and no, Mick, I haven't been drinking.
Sure.
But yeah, well, I don't know, I've had a little bit. I'm furlough, mate. You know what I mean? It's what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, mate, I think I agree with you, Paul. I don't think the Koulibaly thing's happening because, like Mick said perfectly, it'll stop Joe Gomez's his progression, and that's what we all want at the end of the day because he's been a good servant for us. But another name that keeps creeping up on Liverpool fans' lips, and he definitely did it at the weekend, and Mick reminded me to put his name in there for it, was Kai Havertz. And we've done several pieces on our website about that over the last couple.
Such a talented player. I do see him coming to the Premier League, but would it be for the Reds? Can you see him fitting in?
Fitting in as a player, yes, probably. I mean, I haven't seen too much of him, but what I have seen, he seems very technically adept. He scored on Sunday, did he? Or was it yesterday? Yeah, I mean, as I say, I haven't seen a whole lot of him, but he does seem someone who's ready to develop. Very young player, a good engine on him. I thought when there was initially talk of him, I had him down as almost like a David Silva type, but watching him a little bit more closely, he's probably built a little bit more in the Kevin De Bruyne mould, if you like, and he's already a German international, and I think he's someone who could definitely fit in English football. He could fit in a Liverpool system as well, but again, it's the money, isn't it? The money these days. I mean, I haven't seen anything under 100 million for him, and that is just silly money. I don't see Liverpool taking the plunge on that. Their record transfer is Virgil van Dijk at 75 million, and that was just completely out of character for Liverpool. Across if you look at Liverpool's history, apart from 2018, they very rarely paid the biggest fees around, have they? I mean, that was the one calendar year where they completely broke with tradition and built this squad now, and they're probably still paying for it, if we're honest. It's probably why they didn't go into the market too much last summer, because they were still paying off a year that was like something close to 250 million. So as much as Kai Havertz, in my view, would fit into the squad, I just couldn't see them going for something close to 100 million at this point.
Yeah, and that's like Sancho and Mbappe. Mick, go on.
No, I've just because I've seen a load of tweets where people like ins and outs, and it's like ins Havertz and Werner and all that, and it's outs like Lallana. Like, he would be a good replacement for Lallana. Like, when you watch him closely, he could play as a 10 or as a false 9. He could probably play on either wing, so he's versatile in that way. And if he did come in, which I think he'd probably go to Bayern, it seems like, because he's only 20, he'd probably want to stay in Germany more. I think. Do you think in terms of him coming in for Lallana? I just want to touch on Lallana before we go. Do you think Lallana is wanting to stay at Liverpool? I know has he been offered a contract? I don't know if what do you think his future's going to hold? No,
he's going to leave. He essentially wants to play more. I think his birthday's in May, so he's 32 this month.
Yeah.
And he from what I'm led to believe, he just wants to find a new club and play regularly in the last couple of years of his Liverpool career. He loves it at Anfield. He loves the club and all that, but you can understand him wanting to play more because he's still a quality player with a couple of years left at the top level. So I think he'll leave. if you're asking me to put money on where he'd go, I think he might venture back down to the South Coast. I think Bournemouth might be a good fit for him. But yeah, I think he will leave. Yeah.
Yeah, as like I said, at that early stage of Klopp's reign, he was fantastic, wasn't he? He was arguably on the team sheet, and that's the thing. Me and Mick have got a squad number show on the channel. It's where we look at every player who's worn a particular Premier League number. We've only done 4 so far, given the hit of the coronavirus. So we go through them, and you sort of, when you look back at those players, you think, you know what, you weren't there winning the major trophies with us, but you helped us get there. And I think Lallana's definitely one of those players.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he come for a big fee, didn't he, in 2014 after that great season, captaining Southampton. Did they finish in the top 6 or 7? Initially struggled, as quite a lot of players do when they look to make the step up at Anfield, and you realise that you've got to perform every week. You can't just put in 1 in 3 or 2 in 3. It's got to be every single week. But slowly but surely he found his feet, and he was a big part of that team in Klopp's first season, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He was England's Player of the Year as well a couple of years back. So good luck to him if he does leave. I think he's still got a couple of years, and he's one of those players who I enjoy watching. Got great balance, 2 great feet, playing a number of positions. It's interesting he tried to almost reinvent him as a number 6, so a ball playing midfielder earlier in the season. Maybe he did that with a view of looking to prolong his Liverpool career, but he hasn't quite played as much as he'd like, and good luck to him for the future.
We'll have fond memories of us. We'll have fond memories of him as well. Paul, I'm just going to touch on the financial thing again, just because we know it, like you said before, it's pipe dream and stuff like that. But it did make me laugh when I saw it, and this is probably a bullshit story, mate. But I read it and I just thought, did that actually happen where Klopp rang Mbappe's dad? And I was thinking, not too sure about that one. Well, the things you read and people trying to wanting things to happen, mate, it's brilliant. But just going back to your role and this last couple of questions before we let you go, are you feeling sort of the pressure in terms of like the way your role's changed now, and like having to quote unquote replace James Pearce?
Yeah.
A thing he's got with Liverpool fans. Yeah,
I think whoever stepped into James Pearce's shoes was a tough act to follow, wasn't it? Big shoes to fill, even though I'm a lot taller than him. I'll say that. But yeah, no, it was fantastic working alongside him for the best part of 3 years. Consummate professional, absolutely loves the stuff he's doing at the Athletic, and yeah, it was quite a daunting thing filling in for him, because how revered he is among the Liverpool fan base. He is Mr. Liverpool reporter, isn't he? But been great to step into the role which I've pretty much had my eye on for pretty much half my life, since I decided that they'd want to be a football reporter and cover Liverpool home and away. So it's been almost a perfect season. I think for 28 games it was perfect. I know we've hit the skids a bit, but yeah, I'm thoroughly enjoying the role at the moment and getting to grips with it. But I think the difference now is you've got to be more of an overall personality, as opposed to just being a written journalist. You've got to be. We're on the podcast and we're doing loads of video stuff, and you've almost got to become your own little brand, which is strange to someone who would prefer to crack on and do more writing than anything else. But it's great to be able to do things like this with yourselves and whoever else it is, Redmen, Anfield TV, LFC TV. So yeah, as I say, it's been a great first season, and I'm looking forward to a few more in the role.
Well, the luck that you brought this year in terms of league title, you stay in the role forever, mate.
Yeah.
But in terms of, I think a lot of people will, when we ask a lot of our guests and friends and all, what your best moment is as a Liverpool fan, I always say, like, we get to come when we see Hendel lifting that trophy. But for yourself, 33 years of age, and what is your best memory of being a Liverpool supporter?
Maybe be hard pressed to say anything other than Istanbul, wouldn't you? Which is 15 years ago on Monday, would you believe? What a night. I mean, I wasn't there, but the most incredible comeback in European Cup history. It'll never be topped. Unfancied Liverpool team against the all-conquering AC Milan side, 3-0 down, 3-all within 6 minutes of the restarts. What a night that was. I mean, the Champions League win in June was great, but Liverpool were the favourites going into that one and deserved it because of the season he'd had. I don't think anyone felt that the Reds were going to win it in 2005. So you'd have to say that, and then the trophy parade after it.
Yeah, incredible moment, and I think you're right. And no, Mick, you said that was your best memory as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I think it's hard to top, isn't it, really? I think, obviously, you think of recent with, obviously, winning the Champions League last year, and then, obviously, there's the Barcelona game. But I think for how much quality we had in 2005 compared to AC Milan, we had no fucking right to win that, really, did we? So I think in terms of that, I think that's just got to be number one for me. I agree.
Yeah, fair play, mate. And in terms of, like, obviously, your greatest ever player, mate, who would you put that as your greatest ever player?
I mean, Steven Gerrard for longevity, but that's a little bit of an obvious one, isn't it? I think Luis Suarez as a purely gifted footballer, I think we'd be hard pressed to beat him. I think, as great as people might tell you how great Kenny Dalglish was, I struggle to believe that he was any more of a gifted footballer than Suarez was, particularly with that 13-14 season. Yeah. Robbie Fowler was my hero growing up. Genius of a striker. So I'd probably say those three, with Gerrard number one.
Good choices, mate. Good choices. Well, we come to the final question. And Mick, like Robbie Fowler, the deadly finisher, you always finish off because it's your favourite question. Go on then, ask Paul the deadly question.
Yeah, so I've basically just nabbed Carragher's idea off his podcast and just what's your favourite five-side team that you've seen live?
It's got to be Alisson, hasn't it, in goal. He could play a bit as well. He could probably come off for 10 minutes and stick him up front. Van Dijk at the back. I mean, again, he's another one who can play, so he wouldn't have any trouble being the number 10, playing the number 10 role in your five-side. I was torn between Fowler and Suarez on this. I've got to have Gerrard in there, obviously. And I was also, I mean, as I did mention to you, that I was thinking about doing it as an exclusive non-Liverpool five-side team, but I bottled it a bit at the end, and I was going to pick Cristiano Ronaldo in there as well, but I'm going to stick with an all-Liverpool one. So I've got Alisson in goal, Van Dijk, Gerrard, and then Coutinho, because I think him as a five-side player, you wouldn't get it off him, would you?
That's a good point. Good point.
Yeah, he could pick it up in any area and the other team. So him, and then I'm going to go with Suarez. So Suarez, Coutinho, Gerrard, Van Dijk, and then Alisson in goal.
Yeah, you can't beat that. No one's beating that, no matter who else you beat that. Brilliant, mate. Brilliant. Well, listen, Paul, we just want to say thank you very much for being with us today. I know your time's precious, mate. Especially with you have the off the desk as well. But listen, we just want to wish you the best of luck in your role. I know you've been in it for nearly a year now, mate, but I can't wait to read this article. You have got the most privileged job ever, in a generation, mate. And not to put any more bloody pressure on you, lad, but it's
yeah.
Mate, and we'd love to have you back on once we've won that trophy and settle down a bit, mate, and we'll get you back on.
Definitely, yeah. No problem.
Mate, take care of yourself.
All right. Cheers, guys.
See you later.